Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
Hello, and welcome back to a most triumphant episode of the Jared Cast. I am one of your hosts, Jared. Surprise, surprise. You didn't read the title, did you? With me, as always, also named Jared. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. Just been watching a lot of TV. Finished.
Surprise.
Yeah. Peacemaker wrapped it with its season finale. Excellent finale. Vox Machina as well. Cobra Kai, I finally binged that one, and that one was great. Yeah, man. A lot of great TV this year so far.
Yeah, I much like every year in TV, should catch up, probably won't catch up. I am very bad at keeping up with TV shows.
It's a lot.
And we need to do more large commitments to full ass TV shows, I guess. Yeah, but today is not that time.
No.
Speaking of time, we are speaking of time. Time travel, to be specific.
Wow.
Time travel movies. That was a pretty kudos to me on that segue. I know I'm breaking the fourth wall, but that was just off the dome. And now I've ruined it. We're talking time travel movies. They're fun. They're always a good time, except for sometimes. And I'm excited about it. We got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. We've got About Time. But we've also got a top 5 that we have to take care of. What are we doing today, Jared?
I love when top 5s just occur to me out of the blue, no context, nothing to do with the topic at hand. It just kind of, we should do that. And I text Jared and he's like, sure. And so that's kind of what happened with this. And we did we decided to list our top 5 movie babies. Any baby in any movie. Yeah, man, it's a weird list. So I had to cut a lot of babies from the
terrible sentence.
I had to cut a lot of babies. I feel really bad, but not that bad because the babies that made it past the cut are excellent babies. If they count as one of them is kind of not a baby, but it's okay. Yeah, man. I'm very excited. But first, let's hear Jared's number 5.
Well, my number 5 was actually in a Best Baby competition.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, they only placed 3rd, and so you can't really put them higher than that. And I'm talking Bart Harley Jarvis from I Think You Should Leave. Which is... Sorry, go on.
I hate and love that show is part of this podcast now. Like,
we should genuinely do an episode on it because I fucking love it.
Baby.
Oh, baby. Yeah, Bart Harley Jarvis, if you're unfamiliar, is part of my favorite sketch in the whole show, where there's a Best Baby competition and the crowd fucking hates him. And people are wishing he would die. People call him their human fucking garbage can. And it's the greatest sketch, and that's not even the fun. Like, the funniest part of that sketch isn't even with any of the babies. But Bart Harley Jarvis is my favorite baby of those 3 babies. And so to me, he's the best baby.
Hell yeah. Oh, man, that's great. My number 5, did not inspire any nearly as much hatred. Rather, he inspired a whole kingdom's worth of affection. Yes, indeed, I am talking about baby Simba at the beginning of The Lion King. This is a cute ass lion, and yeah, man, inspired a whole bunch of horrible dad jokes, raising their babies up above their heads. Inspired a bunch of horrible baby pictures of dads raising the babies above their heads and saying Simba, even though they don't say Simba in the scene. But yeah, it's an iconic scene for a reason. It's one of Hans Zimmer's stronger and I think strongest moments as a composer. Yeah, man, love the opening sequence of The Lion King, and part of it is because of baby Simba.
Yeah. Did you know what Simba's father had during that scene? He had a lot of pride in his child. Anyways,
Stupid.
My number 4 is it's rare that you see the actual birth of the baby on screen, just showing everything, all the blood, just everything. And so my number 4 is the chest burster xenomorph.
As soon as he said everything, I'm like, okay, it's either knocked up or alien.
And you were right. Yeah, I think he's one of the most iconic, most recognizable babies for sure. You show a picture of this and they're like, oh yeah, I know that baby.
Yeah.
He's terrifying. It's rare that the baby is the villain. And it's cool. And so we don't even have to travel to Sky High to get baby-related villains. We got it right here. And I think the xenomorph is an out-of-this-world baby. So number 4.
Truly out of this world. My number 4 baby is probably equally ferocious, but not nearly as cruel. It is Jack from The Incredibles. Jack Parr discovers that he has superpowers at the end of the film, and it is amazing because he has like 5 of them. Yeah, it's an awesome moment in the movie, but it's also the 15 seconds that Jack is doing all this crazy stuff inspired a short film called Jack Attack that I watched over and over again on the DVD because it was so funny. I love it. Yeah, I love Jack. One of my favorite characters and one of my favorite superhero movies of all time.
Yeah, a fantastic one. I still have not seen Incredibles 2 because Jared saw it without me, and I'm still upset about it.
4 years later.
Yeah. Anyways, my number 3 is Baby from Baby Driver.
I fucking knew it. I fucking knew this would be on your goddamn list.
He's just a great dude. It's rare you could see a baby that drives. That's awesome. He's got great taste in music and some sweet moves to boot. Yeah, he's just a great baby. No, I love Baby Driver a lot, and I thought it'd be funny to include it. And so somehow it ended up as my number 3.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, number 3 of all time.
Yep.
Out there representing all the other babies with tinnitus.
And it's an underrepresented group, let me tell you.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that's great. If anything, my number 3 is overrepresented because Nathan Arizona Jr. has 5 other brothers who look exactly like him. And that's why he inspires a whole movie where he gets stolen by poor parents, just trying to get by. Yeah, man, I love Raising Arizona. It's one of my favorite movies of the 80s. And it's just like so perfect as a comedy, and I love the baby in it. Most of the time he doesn't even like cry. He just kind of just stares into space, even when he
Yeah.
gets hit with the blue paint from the bank thing, the money bank protection paint thing. He's just kind of like chilling on the. It's great. And yeah, such a calm baby, inspiring so much panic and confusion and chaos. I absolutely love it. Yeah, Nathan Arizona Jr. from Raising Arizona.
A fantastic pick. Oh, there's another baby getting kind of angry. Yeah, fantastic. Much like you to squeeze Raising Arizona in any list you can. But it always applies, and that's what matters.
Yes.
My number two is also overrepresented, particularly on this podcast, because it's Jack.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's just one of the best babies. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was also a fiend of Jack attacks, and he was like my favorite Incredible just purely because of that.
Yeah.
So I got to put him here at my number two.
I agree. Hell yeah. I'm glad he made it higher. Yeah, it's weird with the Rugrats because they're kind of all babies, but they're also not, because they're not portrayed as babies. They're portrayed as very, very intelligent people, very, very perceptive people. So it's a weird stretch to say that Angelica is my number two, but I love Angelica Pickles. I think she's a perfect foil for Tommy. I think the complexity of her character is really, really awesome. Much like Helga, you kind of start out hating her, and then the more you peel back the layers, the more you understand her. So if Angelica counts as a baby, I kind of count her as just like, what, two?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it counts.
She's two. The rest of them are one. Like it's fine. And Angelica Pickles from the Rugrats, I could really replace her with like any other Rugrats because they're all amazing characters. Yeah. So number two, a Rugrat. Yeah.
Dope. Yeah, a fantastic and almost as culturally iconic as my number one baby, who is probably, when you think babies for movies and TV shows, this is probably one that jumps into most people's mind. Maybe I'm alone in this. Maybe I'm speaking to too young of an audience now. It's The Simpsons. It's Maggie Simpson.
Yeah.
Just probably the best baby, from falling in love with Moe to fucking murdering Mr. Burns at one point. She's done it all. Yeah, Maggie is fantastic. I'm a big Simpsons nerd. And so this kind of just had to be my number one, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I love Maggie as well. I was debating like her, Stewie and Ike, but like the obvious one was Maggie.
Yeah.
But for my number one, I decided instead of going to TV, I would stick with movies and pick Baby Groot, because I love Baby Groot. For I guess spoiler alert for these 7 to 6-year-old movies, but Groot sacrifices himself at the end of Guardians 1 and gets replanted and reborn as a baby in a pot and dances to Michael Jackson at the end. It's freaking fantastic. And then the second movie starts with Groot still as a baby dancing to Mr. Blue Sky, doing a little angry dance while the rest of the team is fighting for their lives against a kaiju. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. It's they're two of my favorite MCU movies. And I love the way that James Gunn characterized Groot at any age, not just as a baby, but especially as a baby.
Yeah, Baby Groot actually narrowly missed my list, even though I'm a Marvel hater. Only because I think Teenage Groot outshines Baby Groot a little bit for me.
Teenage Groot's awesome.
And so I had to leave him off, but that's an excellent pick, and I fully support it.
Hell yeah. All right. Shall we go to our
Travel in time?
Let's travel in time to a completely unrelated.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking of babies, here's a baby-faced Keanu Reeves, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But before we get into it, we have some very passionate thoughts from one trailer park boy. In this installment of Jared Reed's poorly written reviews of movies that we're watching because it's funny, it makes him laugh and stuff. This one is called "If I Had a Time Machine, I Would Kill the Director of This Movie."
Oh my God.
I gave it a 1 out of 10.
All right.
And you'll immediately get to be able to guess what year or a couple years that this would be written in. I recently purchased this movie from Hollywood Video for around $15. Let's just say I didn't get my money's worth. This movie is extremely boring, unfunny, and a waste of time. The movie doesn't even fit the category of stupid funny. Scenes in this movie were way longer than they should have been, and that made it boring. The jokes were all based on the same idea, making them tired right from the beginning. The acting in this movie was extremely terrible. I have a hard time believing Keanu Reeves was in this. I only have only one thing I found useful for this movie. I had an idea. Just wait. Nope. Nothing. Easy steps for making your own terrible movie. 1. Let a 14-year-old kid write a fantasy story. Now it's important that he does his worst thinking and he's drunk too. 2. Hire someone like Bob Hope for jokes. 3. Make sure it has plenty of plot holes in it. Example, Beethoven not being deaf. Oh, throw in a telephone booth. And 5, you know what? It'd be much easier to just react. This movie. He really fizzles out at the end. Just have 4. You don't need the 5th.
Oh my God, dude. Why the hostility against Bob Hope? Like,
Yeah,
so unnecessary.
Literally, have a drunk toddler read it, throw Bob Hope in there, and you've got the worst movie you've ever seen.
Oh my God, dude.
I like how have a telephone booth is in there, as if this wasn't like made during a time where they were like kind of still a thing.
Stupid, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. But on that note, we're talking Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a most triumphant installment of the time travel genre, featuring Alex Winter and Keno. How did he spell it? Keeno. Keanu Reeves. Starring both of them in like their infancy. It is weird how young they look in this. Directed by Stephen Herrick, who did a bunch of other movies, every single one of them completely different, and also the MacGyver TV show. He had a hand
hell
in
yeah.
that. He didn't direct. I think he produced it, but same.
Okay.
Yeah, and I love it. This was my second watch, actually. My second, despite this being totally my kind of movie.
Right.
And I think it's excellent. I think it's most excellent. It's very dumb, and I do think they kind of steal from Wayne's World, which started like a year and a half before, in terms of like dialogue. Like they straight up say "party on," dude, all the time. Like I think there's a little bit of borrowing, but I can look past it because every acting performance is perfect, even down to like Socrates just being way too into the role, George Carlin being dead ass serious for such a dumb movie, and I think most of those work because everybody commits so fucking hard to their character.
Yeah.
And this movie shouldn't. Like you shouldn't have, but it worked so well because they did. And also, I think there's a deeper message to it. I think it's a genuinely fantastic critique of the Western education system as a whole, which might sound insane. I'm sure we'll get into it. It's weird if I just bring that up and we don't talk about it. It's edited snappily. It doesn't drag on, apart from, I think, the scene where they are in the castle meeting the princesses. I think that whole shindig is a little long. But besides that, it is an incredibly charming movie. It's got shit to say. It's dumb as fuck. I laughed a lot, and I love it a lot. So I gave it a 9 out of 10. I'll go pretty high for Bill and Ted.
Yeah, I went pretty high too. I gave it I think this movie is excellent, and I gave it a 9.3, putting it only 0.3 points away from There Will Be Blood.
As it should be.
As it should be.
Isn't film fantastic? I think you put it like 3 times as high as The Graduate. I think you gave The Graduate like a 3, maybe a 4.
I gave it 3 point something. I gave it 3 point something.
This is 3 times as good as The Graduate. You heard it here first.
And I stand by that. Because this movie, unlike The Graduate, checks all the boxes for what I like about this kind of genre, about its respective genre. Fun locations and time periods, creative interactions with those time periods. It's a relatable fish out of water protagonist with a very simple goal, paradoxes and surprises, and a fun method of time travel. I think those are all key, especially in a post Back to the Future society. I've only seen this movie once as well. This may be controversial, I actually kind of enjoy it more than Back to the Future, even though I do love Back to the Future, the first one. This one doesn't have any weird
Anybody
makeup.
trying to rape their mom in it?
Yeah, that
maybe that scene.
The incest. There's not really any incest.
There actually kind of is. Actually, never mind. I take back the wanting to fuck your mom thing.
But the thing with the Bill and Ted thing, like, he admits it at the end. He's like, I think I just have an edible complex.
Yeah, he's like, nah, I'm good. I just got a small edible complex.
And I low key, I don't know if it's intentional, but I think they're kind of roasting Back to the Future with that, which I love. I love that. I agree with what Jared said about the dumb fun stuff. I kept on thinking of not comparisons to Wayne's World, but comparisons to Back to the Future. But honestly, like, I love that this movie, despite everything against it, despite like just being very dumb, like, it stood the test of time. It still holds up as a great, just fun comedy to turn your brain off and just laugh your head off. Because I did. Every time I heard the electric guitar, I laughed out loud while my dad was working like 3 feet away. It was great. I think it's a fantastic movie. I'm a big Keanu stan, and I think this is a great early performance. And I'm excited to talk about it more.
Me too. So let's do it. Yeah, I'll get the Wayne's World comparisons out of the way, because I don't. It didn't hit me before, maybe because I hadn't even seen Wayne's World. I don't know when I hopped on the old episodes of SNL train, but there's just too many similarities to ignore, I think. There's literally one blonde one, one black-haired one. They want to be in a band. They're always pretending to play electric guitar. They talk the exact same. They break the fourth wall in similar ways. I don't know. I think they borrowed quite a bit. But that said, I think they're an individual enough characters that it's completely removed. Like, I don't see Bill and Ted and think, oh yeah, it's Wayne and Garth. Like, not at all. They're still completely defined in their own right, but the similarities are definitely there.
Yeah, I agree that the similarities are there, but I think a key difference is that Bill and Ted, like, there's not a there's not a single ounce of like parody in their performance. Like, they're absolutely sincere, and I think that's the main reason why the movie works is because like they're playing stereotypes of like California slackers, but these are two dudes who genuinely just want to be excellent to each other, and I think and that simple and like stupid philosophy like doesn't just pervade doesn't just permeate the the characters. It permeates, I think, the people who are making the movie, including the actors.
Yeah.
And but I agree though. I agree. Like, it would have been funny to watch those two movies side by
It
side.
would have. Yeah. I think it would have been too much stoner Californian slang for me. It would have ruined my entire vocabulary for 3 months. I need to balance it out. Yeah, you mentioned the sincerity of Bill and Ted, and that extends to every character. I briefly mentioned it in our intro. Every character is genuinely like sincere, happy to be around, and just like kind of vibing the whole time. Even Genghis Khan is having a great time and just being Genghis Khan. But yeah, it's that sincerity that like the performances live and die on. Like the Morpheus ass character, even down to them. I think in the credits they're the three most important men in the world, and that's just their name. But them, even they are like genuinely so sincere. The dramatic like wailing on the air guitars at the end is like a salute, is perfect, but it's done with like so much genuine, like weird genuine charm that it doesn't feel like it's trying to be anything but sweet in its own weird quirky ass way. And I love that. I think it's absolutely fantastic for every character involved.
Yeah, man, it's really really cool, and like I I always think it's interesting when comedies do this, where they play like to the base level like stereotype of like what do people recognize when they think of Socrates? What do people recognize when they think of Lincoln? What do people recognize when they think of like future utopia, like religious people? Like how like what's the first thing that comes to mind? And this movie just goes for that note and sticks to it. And
Yeah.
and I think it's really cool, like because like I was writing in my notes in the middle of the movie, like maybe these historical figures like need more nuance, like maybe they need a little more, but like honestly, like it's fun just to see like Billy the Kid like playing a stereotypical cowboy, and Socrates just being a stereotypical Greek, and the ancient Greek, and then they're playing with catch, like
Yeah.
like
Fucking Napoleon's on water slides.
yeah, like sticking to the base level of like what like pop culture sees these historical figures, like what like how pop culture perceives these historical figures, I think is absolutely key, not just to to the to the comedy, but to the like what you said, like the message of the movie, and like how it kind of talks about education and the way we talk about history. I think it's actually really really smart, and a very smart decision that they chose to just purposefully make the characterizations shallow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it kind of like it both mirrors what Bill and Ted think of the characters. Like they're like, oh, this is what Socrates will be like, and so he's exactly like that. But it's also like sincere in that it teaches them, and it kind of teaches the audience about them. Like Joan of Arc, like they learn about all of her achievements and that she was like executed at 17. Like they're genuinely learning along the way. And that's why it's so great. It's because it toes that line. It is absolutely ridiculous. You're not going to be able to like learn a lot from this movie.
No.
But you'll remember some people's names, and you'll kind of have a goofy caricature version of them in your head. And sometimes that's enough to spark interest.
I checked, like, they got the years right in the presentation too. Like, it's factual. Like, they're legit.
Yeah, it's it's fantastic. Yeah, we've been hinting at the education theme of this movie, and I think there is a lot to it. I think there's a lot to be said of it being a commentary on Western education being just memorization, basically, not not dialogue, not hands-on anything. It's literally just, hey, read this paper. Okay, tomorrow write down what you remember from that paper, and now forget about it immediately. And there are a lot of issues with that. And so it takes that to an extreme degree. The Bill and Ted don't learn shit in class, but then in this they learn fucking everything immediately by like actually being there.
Yeah.
Even down to
No, I was just saying, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like you're good. Even down to the depiction of the environments that they go to and the time periods they go to. Like Athens, Greece is like super chill. It's very chill. And because it's one of those spoken word education societies, it doesn't have the westernized remember this education. But when you jump over to France, it's violent. When you jump over to like Mongolian China, of course, it's going to be a little violent. And so even in their like set and settings, they like have the sereneness when they are, when they're speaking what they want to say on education and they're critiquing education systems. They're consistent with it throughout fucking time, which is insane because this movie is fucking stupid. So why are they going so hard?
I wholeheartedly agree with your assessment. I didn't even write notes about that specifically, but that's really awesome. What I picked up on actually was the was like how like deep their vocabulary actually was. Like the movie makes constant hints to the fact that like Bill and Ted are actually really smart. They're just it's just because the education system fails them that they appear to be stupid. They appear to be like they fail in class, and therefore they fail. They are failures in life. And I think this is something that like really touched me because like that was it from childhood. An F meant, or literally anything below a B meant like a horrible thing. And yeah, like I think the movie does a great job of that. Like to Ted, failing this course will literally mean the end of his life. Like he's gonna go to Alaska, he's gonna go to military school. His dad doesn't think anything of his dad's opinion of him is so low that there's no bouncing back from one F in a class. And I think that's cool because that plays into the fact that these guys are teenagers, they're still kids. Getting an F feels like the end of the world, and so the emotional stakes are high, and the relatability is high as well, and it also I don't know, it feels like, because we like Bill and Ted so much and because we kind of know how smart they are, like to us it would feel like an injustice for them to get an F, and so we're constantly rooting for them to get the score anyway, even though the score is bullshit. I think it's really, really cool the way they take digs at the education system like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned something super interesting because it's what you didn't mention when you talk about stakes and that we're like rooting for the characters because we want them to succeed for their future and their friendship. Like we want them to stay together and not have to like give up the band. We totally forget that like the future of the world is also at stake, but like that to the audience is kind of just a source of the ability to time travel and a source of gags and jokes, but it's not where like the actual stakes come from. The actual stakes come from just liking Bill and Ted and wanting them to succeed. And I think that that's also why we root so hard for them, and why that finale, especially the speech from Abraham Lincoln, is so cathartic. It's so satisfying, just because you're like cheering so hard, and not even for the reason that the entire future of the planet is at stake.
Oh man, yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's awesome.
I love it. I love it.
Oh man, the Wild Stallions are the most important band in the history of humanity. It's so good. So have you seen the sequels? Because I haven't.
I have not. No.
Okay. I've been wanting to watch Bogus Journey because people tell me that it's like way different, but like almost better. Which
Okay. Yeah, I've heard great things about it, and then the third one I have heard like nothing about at all.
Yeah, that one unfortunately came out like right before pandemic, so it got buried.
Damn.
Yeah, but I'll watch both now that I've enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, same. I'm and especially like seeing the characters grow up. I think it would be just the most interesting thing about it for me. Just starting off, and see how they pull off a sequel to something that genuinely doesn't need a sequel, but also it's gotten good reviews. So it must be doing something right.
There must be. Was there anything you didn't like about the movie?
Not really. I mentioned the princess scene, and like the death fake out and stuff like that. It's a little long. The only bad performance is from one knight in that castle who kind of just like stumbles into the room and just like stands still like the fucking biggest goon in the goddamn world.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, I had to rewind because it was so weird. But besides that, like, not really. Like, there's not. It gets a little stale if you're not 100% in the mood for like the dumb dialogue-driven jokes, and the style of dialogue could be grating. I was into it, so it wasn't really like a negative for me. At some points, I was like, all right, like low-hanging fruit, whatever. But most of the jokes are like genuinely very clever. Like the Oedipal complex joke we mentioned earlier, genuinely smart, genuinely funny. And so not really. I don't really have a lot wrong with it. What about you?
It took me a while to get into the Napoleon B story. I think it's not significantly weaker, but in terms of like pacing and inventiveness of the gags, like it's noticeably weaker. Not significantly, but noticeably. And I like, of course, I'm won over by the time he gets to the water park, to Waterloo, which is so stupid.
Yep.
They went way too hard on the Napoleon character because those are his actual charts that he used. Like I remember
And then
from studying
I don't know,
Waterloo.
man. I don't think it's gonna work.
And they used when they kidnapped Napoleon, they used footage from the film of War and Peace. With Audrey Hepburn and a bunch of others.
so good.
Amazing. Yeah, like so I don't even fault the movie that hard for losing me for like 2 minutes. Because there's just something special about a famous dictator getting thrown out of a bowling alley, or a famous dictator pushing over little kids to get in front of the water slide.
Yeah. I agree. I think the Napoleon B plot is very much a B plot. Like it's in terms of strength. But to me, I kind of just saw it as a setup and then punchline of the water slide scene. Like I kind of just saw it as like the longest setup and then the one of the better payoffs, honestly, for any joke.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like treat it as like a hard plot point rather than like another gag. But it is at the end of the day another plot point, and so you gotta criticize it for that too.
Yeah, yeah. Were there like other historical jokes that really tickled you, or like other, like, I don't know, subtle nods to the character and to the historical figure?
One of them isn't. It's not even like at all because they're like accurate to the character or something. I'm trying to remember the quote. What song does Socrates quote when he's talking about the sands of time?
Dust in the Wind by Kansas.
Yeah,
That's
fucking hilarious.
It's such an obvious. It's one of those great punchlines because it's so obvious, but you don't see it coming. Of Keanu Reeves just it's like, philosophizing, man. All we are is dust in the wind, dude. I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like that's fantastic. I absolutely adore that joke. As far as other, I'm trying to think of other historical figures or like jokes about the historical figures that come up. The Beethoven in like the Guitar Center is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, are you a musician? It's just the look that Beethoven, he's like, the fuck?
I love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
There's a lot of great stuff. There was only one other one that I wrote down when they're all hanging out at the mall and Freud is holding a corn dog up like this, and then when Socrates calls him a geek, the corn dog droops over. I'm like, yeah, penis.
It's dick.
That was great.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Oh, there was another moment. I forget what it was, but they all said "whoa" in their different accents, and I thought that was hilarious. I had to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard. That was great.
Yeah. They just do such good justice to it, and it's great because like to tie up kind of back into the education thing and like back into their journey, they don't like learn everything from being in the time either. Like they're kind of just on a quest to gather characters. Most of the historical context that they get is from people at Circle K, just like asking around, just conversationally, because that's how learning should be. Also, one of the best lines in the whole movie is "Strange things are afoot at the Circle K."
I wrote down the exact one. So good.
It's brilliant. And so it's just awesome that like they have all these super strong historical figures and like it doesn't even matter because they just need education. And like that's just cool.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Favorite scenes? Any more you wanted to discuss?
I mean, like, I didn't have any other notes, but I do have a question. Like, as far as like other time travel movies and other, as far as like how it compares to like other time travel movies, like what do you think sets this movie apart? Like specifically the time travel aspect of it.
Yeah, it follows its own rules real well. Like for time travel, you need very defined rules because plot holes are inevitable, and there is plot holes in this too. But like you already know that they succeed because it's happening. Like you see them talking to themselves and shit like that. Like you know exactly what it's going to happen. And so like the lack of free will method of time travel basically I think works super well. The time still running back home while you travel is very important to George Carlin's character, and I think that that's important to the plot because it starts a clock in your mind that's like, okay, like this is a time thing. They can time travel, but they still don't have forever, which is very nice. Obviously, like things things should be kind of afoot more, I think, just because they're fucking around. But also, you could make the case that like, oh, this has already happened, so like it doesn't matter because everything they did, they've always done, and that's how we got here. So it's fucking confusing, but they do a good job sticking to the rules that they set out. And yeah, it's just a great execution.
Yeah, I agree. And like the way they go about fixing all the different steps, like with the dad's keys, or with like dropping a trash can on his head. Like I thought that was brilliant. I completely forgot about that being in the movie, and I was like, holy shit, that was smart. Because it's funny and it's a good payoff, and like, I also like love picturing them like struggling to set it all up and like stumbling along the way.
And like even when it doesn't work, like when I think Ted tells himself to wind his watch because he forgot to, but it's actually because he winded his watch for no reason that the time got all fucked up, and so he's just continuously fucking himself over, is fucking fantastic. It's so like on brand for the character. It shows that they have the ability to like drop hints for themselves in the past / future, and sometimes it doesn't work out. It's just, you need that counterweight to balance the trash can, the dad's keys things.
Yeah, I agree. I also love that like they're kind of to the time travel trope or time travel genre thing. Like they learn from history, they learn from their travels, but they don't really change as people. And I think that's why they're such great heroes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they develop but don't change in a way. Like it's not completely stagnant characters either, which I think is definitely important for this.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Favorite scenes now?
Let's do it.
Okay, hit me with them.
I like first getting Socrates, scooping him up, where Billy the Kid's just like waiting in the corner, like, all right, I'll wait here. And then also, all we are is dust in the wind, dude. Like, and then he's so impressed that these kids have
he's
it.
blown away. Honestly, like everybody's like Joan of Arc is fucking baffled by them too. Like everybody's just real taken aback in the best way.
Yeah, it's so good. The execution rescue, the first time I saw this, I did not see that coming. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like, first of all, how did they even coordinate this? But like, also like, who cares? This is great. Napoleon at the water park, Beethoven with the synthesizers, and just the entire presentation, I think is excellent. Truly excellent, especially Abraham Lincoln's speech. I also love that the kids start clapping. It's like, oh, finally someone we know.
Yeah. They do like the pan when the audience is clapping, and there's one dude who's just like yawning and like fake clapping, and it's fantastic.
I didn't even notice. That's great.
Yeah, it's delightful. Yeah, I agree on a lot of the same scenes. Especially the finale, the synthesizer, shit like that. When they see themselves coming out of the time machine, I think it's fantastic. And like, the payoff of them returning is gonna happen, but it's still satisfying after. The scene I mentioned earlier with the way future people like strumming the air guitar is absolutely hilarious. The finale's fantastic, especially Abraham Lincoln. You literally can't even imagine the movie ending differently because that ending is so iconic. Yeah, Napoleon at the water park. Pretty much everything we've talked about. Pretty much the whole movie.
Pretty much.
It's just a lot of fun.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. Despite it probably not like it probably shouldn't have been. Yeah. Yeah, the execution scene is great. It also has one of my favorite jokes where they say, put them in the Iron Maiden. And they're like, oh, excellent. And start like playing guitar. It's fantastic. Yeah, great movie.
Great movie.
Big fan. If you want to watch it, you can. Just go for it. It's on HBO. just do it. What's stopping you? It's on HBO Max. It's on. Can you tell I'm trying to Google it? Amazon Prime, Hulu, Roku, and then some of those are premium. You'll also have to pay to rent it. HBO Max is probably the easiest if you got that.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Now a completely different time travel movie.
Yeah, time for something different, and about time, isn't it? But it's also about time for Jared reads poorly written reviews of movies that we're watching because it's funny and it makes them laugh and stuff.
Hate it.
Yeah. Sorry. This one comes from a name that I can't pronounce and I'm not going to try. We'll call him Alejandro, though. It's this review is titled "Why?" and gave it a 1 out of 10. And I love this. I know something about it is one of my favorites. I'm going to be honest. I know that's overhyping it right before I read it, but I stand by it. My beloved friend Zyken recommended me this movie. I am wondering if he was being sincere or just pulling a prank on me. While I appreciate the work of everyone involved in this project, I am writing this review still waiting for something to happen to understand why my dear friend Zyken would recommend such a movie. Just like the main character able to live in an infinite loop between present and past, I feel trapped in these little 2 hours and 3 minutes. It's been 1 hour and it feels like multiple lifetimes. Perhaps this is what my earnest friend wanted to show me, how malleable time is and how we can submit our closest acquaintances to consecutive minutes of confusion and frustration. I hope that one day I understand what this movie is about. What is the lesson? Is it that misleading people into magical stalking is the wrong thing to do? This movie seems to be unaware of this, but yet I keep a small hope of a twist at the end that shows how futile it is to force love. Or perhaps it is about how love is actually a delusion only achievable by misleading who we like. 1 more hour, or only 1 hour more, or multiple lifetimes, to reveal what my kind mate Zyken wanted to teach me. God bless his beautiful soul.
Well, now I'm curious. Now I want to know what happens to him at the end.
There's no update. It's
Oh my
just
God.
so wholesome.
So wholesome and so hateful at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, that's the way I strive to live my life. I'm going to be honest.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, because like the movie like changes in the second half. I wonder.
It does. It's 2 different messages.
Oh man.
Yeah, I
Maybe
wish
he
there
liked
was a
it.
follow-up. I
Yeah.
really wish there was.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, man. This is my second time watching About Time. I was a little less sold on it the first time I watched it, but and the more I thought about it after watching it, the more I loved it. And on the second watch as well, like I thought it was just really, really fun, really, really cool, and just very different from other time travel movies. because the writer director, Richard Curtis, he had a quote like when the movie came out that it was kind of an anti-time travel movie, and I think that's a very, very cool way of looking at it. I remember also watching the trailer when it first came out and thinking like, oh, this looks so lame. Like, what the hell? Like a rom-com with time travel? I'm sick of this shit, man. Sick of rom-coms being mediocre. And then like the movie
Man, I'm just so sick of Rachel McAdams falling in love with time travelers.
That's true. That's true. There's another one called Time Traveler's Wife, which I have not seen. But when this movie came out, it came out to like rave reviews. Like people were very, very pleasantly surprised by this movie, and so was I. I love the supporting cast. I love the main two actors. I think Bill Nighy, especially, this is my favorite performance of his. I think he's an absolute revelation, especially on the second viewing. You can see that he's both a facilitator and a participant, and I think he's such a fantastic character. I love the serious parts of the movie, and I love the funny parts of the movie. I think it's very funny, but also very sad in some ways. And yeah, like the whole the way I feel about it and the way I'll feel about it when I watch it again will probably keep continuing to get higher and higher and higher in terms of score. And so today I feel like giving it an 8.2. I really, really love this movie. And I think despite I think the superior performances and above average editing make up for some of the weaknesses of the screenplay, which we can get into later. But overall, I think this is a very, very above average time travel movie and an above average rom-com, if you can even call it a rom-com after the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, I mostly agree. I was very positive on this movie. I felt like a little sap when I was watching it.
Yeah.
It was a delightful watch. But I think it's kind of far from perfect. Not that every movie has to be perfect. Like that's not the benchmark. I'm not be like, this movie's imperfect. It's out of my existence forever. But it does have its flaws. Some of them, it's too open for time travel plot holes, I think. Having the notion that their actions when they go back directly affect the future that they receive. I think it's way too similar most of the times he goes back. And that's okay. Like you kind of have to fudge it a little bit to get through. And so most of my qualms are small things like that. I love that it's a rom-com that doesn't focus on getting the girl. It's a rom-com focused on like, what do you do after you've acquired a woman, and how do you juggle? How do you juggle family? How do you juggle relationships and shit like that? And also, you can time travel, and I think that's great. It's a very interesting story. All the performances across the board, even down to his sister Kit Kat, were fantastic. Bill Nighy especially. Somehow you feel as if he's been doing the same day twice. Like it comes through in his performance, and that's such a weird thing to come through in a performance. Like even before that reveal that he relives every single day twice, you kind of like, is this motherfucker doing this again?
Dude.
And that's awesome. That is brilliant acting if you can pull that off. Because you know that was probably the only directing they had to do for Bill because he's fucking incredible. So they're probably like, hey, do this. He's like, all right. I think it really, your enjoyment of this comes down to how much you'll like a Richard Curtis movie. Mostly Love Actually and Four Weddings and a Funeral. Yeah, Four Weddings and a Funeral. Yeah. I think that's a big part of your enjoyment of this movie. If you'll like sappy rom-coms like that, you'll also probably like this. But I do think this one's a little more interesting. Love Actually is great. I haven't seen Four Weddings, but this one has a little more oomph to it, and I like that a lot. I think it's a great movie. I think it just could have been. It was very close to being executed better, and there are the screenplay issues as well. Overall, positive. I'll give it a 7.4. I enjoyed myself.
Nice. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Richard Curtis also wrote or co-wrote a movie that we've reviewed before on this podcast called Yesterday, which is also a very fun little weird time-ish story. Not really time travel, but like messing with time, messing with history. And like both movies deal with a protagonist that has a very complex, but a very compelling and a very relatable conflict. But I think because so much of both movies is focused on the lead and on his conflict, I think one thing that I mentioned in that episode was that Lily James's character was underwritten, which the female romantic lead, and I think the same goes for this movie as well. I think that was my biggest gripe with it. And like, of course, like I forgive it a little bit when you realize the movie's not really a rom-com. But still, like I would have liked to have a moment where she finds out at the end or something, like, or maybe have a moment where maybe just give her even like one scene by herself where she sees something weird and sees him walk into a room and it's different somehow. Like I would love to see something like that, but sadly we don't get that. And despite that, I think Rachel McAdams still kills it. She always does. She's one of the most underrated and underutilized actresses in Hollywood today. I think kind of getting lost in the sauce with this weird plot, like, makes them forget about how important the opposite romantic lead is. We talked even just last week about how important both Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant were to each other, and both Claudette Colbert and Clark Gable were to each other. But because I think so much of it is focused on Donald Gleason, I think the movie loses a little bit of something. Yeah. What were other? You also mentioned some screenplay stuff that you had issues with. What were your issues with the screenplay?
I mean, that was the big one. I think pretty much every female is real underwritten in this. Like, you could tell that it was written by a man, which, I mean, has its definite downsides, but it's not necessarily a bad thing right off the bat. But I think in this case, it hurts the film a lot. I want more out of the female lead. The relationship with Kit Kat is one of the most interesting dynamics in this movie. It's barely explored, and the whole bringing her back in the past goes against some of the rules that they set up already. And so it's like already kind of not handled great. And so and then he fucking still chooses to like almost murder his sister just so he could have the baby that he didn't even get that attached to. It was like a month. You could switch babies. It's fine.
It was a year.
Yeah. It's the same shit. But yeah, so I think even like Kit Kat's underwritten. His mom is like barely in it at all. Like, she just might as well just be irrelevant to the movie. And so most of my qualms did come to that. And the bringing Kat back in time was very dumb. I didn't like it. Just go back in time and punch the dude yourself or something to find the same result. I don't think you have to go back on the only men in the family can time travel. how did he know that would work? Like, I don't know. It would have been funny if he tried and it didn't work or something. They just had better avenues to go with it, I think. But yeah, those were mostly my issues with the screenplay. The tonal shift in the middle, like we've kind of been hinting at and talking about, I don't think is a bad thing.
No, yeah, it's great.
I think switching from the "you can't force love," also this is kind of creepy, to time travel isn't worth it if you just live like you're supposed to, live in the moment.
Yeah.
Which, as tacky of like a thesis that is, it's executed well and it's done well, and it made me emotional. And so, like,
Yeah,
that's a win. You got away with one there, Richard. And so I think the tonal shift works. So I didn't have any issues with that, but I could see some people being like kind of put off by it.
Yeah, it's definitely a surprise, and I think another screenplay thing that I kind of rubbed the wrong way, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, was I think they
The
overused
time travel while in time travel.
No, that was fine. No, the narration I thought was
Yeah.
I thought it was fine at the beginning and fine at the end. Didn't need it in the middle where it's like, and then this is what I found.
Like, we saw.
Yeah, man. Like I understand. I know, like, the temptation, because when a story is really personal to you, like, of course you want your entire point of view to be in there. But I think I admire even more filmmakers who show restraint when they're telling really personal stories, because you could tell he's putting a lot of himself in this main character. You could tell he's identifying a lot with the idea of being a man in a relationship with a woman, of being a man in a relationship with a father and with a child, like, but it's just a little too much, and, like, you don't need the narration. Like, I feel like if Curtis had held back on the narration in the middle, I would have felt a lot better about the movie, for sure.
Yeah, it almost felt insulting to the audience. Like, hey, you guys are a little too dumb for this pretty basic ass story, so I'm just going to tell you guys exactly what's happening. And you don't want that, especially voiceover. It's very easy to dip into that. And you can use it, like, to your advantage, like The Big Short, just being like, here's Margot Robbie in a bathtub to explain some shit. Like, you can do it effectively,
Yeah.
but they didn't, and it detracts from the film for sure.
Yeah, and but to that point, like, I think the movie does succeed in the way they I think, even though that there is that weakness in the edit, like, there are moments in the movie that aren't insulting to the audience, that actually do challenge us. Like, are we looking at a different version of the day? Are we looking at a different thing? Especially towards the end, when we kind of see a loop of Rachel McAdams turning over in bed. I thought that was a fucking great edit. That was so cool.
Yeah,
I think this movie has impeccable jump cuts all the way through the thing, going through the different days, or just the monotony of Donald Gleason's character in the Kate Moss Museum, or Kate Moss Gallery. I think is really, really punchy. It's really, really smooth as well, and visually it's a treat. Like a big weakness of the romantic comedy genre, and even sometimes of the time travel genre, is a lack of visual inventiveness. And so I appreciate that this movie went that extra mile, and they took that extra mile. Like, okay, let's make this beautiful to look at, and let's make it cool to watch it play out.
Yeah. Visually, it's a fantastic movie. Even, like, some of the framing, the cinematography is not going to be amazing, but a lot of the compositions that they come up with are great. Like the Kate Moss Museum that you mentioned, that wide with them just like on the bench with the giant painting behind them is just a beautiful shot. And there's a lot of gorgeous shots in this, which is all you need when you have good editing and strong performances. Like, it's just all going to tie together at that point. And I think it does.
Hell yeah. Were there any other editing moments that you got like that really like took you by surprise? Like, oh shit, like that's cool.
A lot of it was the jump cuts. Like when he's in the closet, I like the jump cuts of location, but kind of like staying on usually his fist or maybe his side profile or something. I thought those were very well executed. Trying to think of any other exact edits came together. None are jumping out at me. But yeah, overall it was nice.
That's all good. It's all good. Cool.
Yeah.
We talked about this being a very Donald Gleason heavy podcast. What did you think of his performance in this, and how does it compare to like the other times that you've seen him, stuff like that?
He was great. I liked that he's actually pretty smooth. He's just socially awkward. Like once he gets like the second crack at it, usually he's spitting lines.
Yeah.
And so man. I think that Gleason plays that very well. One critique that I saw when I was like researching this movie was that it felt like Richard Curtis is still writing for Hugh Grant, and I absolutely disagree. I think Donald Gleason absolutely is perfect for the role. It reminded me a lot of, and is probably the reason he got casted in that Black Mirror episode that he's in, where I think it's about erasing the memories of his ex-wife or something.
No, that one's it's about.
Or no, it's the.
He's
he gets like the fake version of her or whatever. Yeah, and fucking tastic episode, by the way. And so it reminded me a lot of that character in a lot of the more emotional settings of this movie. And I think he does great. He carries the comedy well. He carries the emotional weight well. His emphasis on family and the family unit was also perfect. And it was a nice anchor for the character. And I think Dommel fucking killed it. He obviously was also given the most to chew on. And so his performance is kind of elevated over some of the other performances. But I think that's half because of talent, half because of writing. But overall, fantastic job.
I agree. Yeah, he's just a freaking Swiss Army man, dude. I love.
No, that was Daniel Radcliffe.
Swiss Army actor. Then fine. I freaking love him in this movie, man. He's so good. And like what you said about like perfect casting, like, I mentioned in my thing for Power of the Dog when we talked about it on our best of 2021 list here, that like the director knows how to maximize not just the performance but the physicality of the actor. And I think that like the way he's blocked in scenes, like using his height, I think the way the way the director like the way Curtis directs his posture and the choices that he makes with his shifts in posture are so smart all the way through the movie. And I really admire them for just taking that going that extra mile for a movie that's a time travel rom-com. Like there's so many great great moments like that where you're just like, man, I'm so glad that they that they put a little extra effort into it, that they sprinkled some more salt on it. The movie does have a very like rich supporting cast. We got Margot Robbie, we got Vanessa Bayer, Rachel McAdams, Bill Nighy, freaking what's his name playing the grumpy roommate, Tom Hollander
Yeah.
from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like so many cool like British actors that are great in other movies too. Was there one besides Bill Nighy that stood out to you?
Um, I mentioned liking Kit Kat's character a lot. I like the black sheep of the family,
Lydia
and I think
Wilson.
she plays it. Yeah, I think Lydia plays it very well. Um, I wish there was more, but also like it is also a long movie, and I do think it kind of drags. And so like I don't know, like I don't know how you would kind of fix it. Um,
I actually kind of like that she's in the movie less because I think it's a key part of his character. Like, oh shit, I forgot about my sister,
yeah,
and she's the second most important person to me. Like, how could I possibly forget? And that plays into his guilt and his choice to take her back.
yeah.
So I don't know.
I think that's very fair. I do think it works. I just liked her a lot, and so I wanted to see more. Like I would
Yeah.
watch a prequel with Bill Nighy alone, and
Yeah.
maybe she'd be in that more. But it's yeah. I just think that she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Margot was good. She's always good. She doesn't do anything this whole movie. She's just like hot, and that's her character essentially,
Yeah.
which is very disappointing because we've seen how talented she is. So it's always a shame when somebody's underutilized like that. I thought Crazy Roommate Harry was pretty delightful too.
So good.
But really the two leads and Bill steal the show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. I also that's pretty much everything I had for this movie. I also wanted to shout out one more guy because I'm going to cut this out of the edit. Sorry. Richard Griffiths. Shout out Richard Griffiths, who played Vernon in the Harry Potter movies. This was his last film, actually. So, he had one great scene where he played a defense attorney. I thought that was a great scene. Just like, oh shit, I helped out the wrong attorney. I thought that was really cool, and I love Richard Griffiths, not just in the Harry Potter movies but in other ones as well, and so I wanted to shout him out. He died a few months before the movie came out, so I was very sad to hear about that.
Yeah, that is sad. I have a question for you if you got nothing else.
Faux show.
Is this movie kind of problematic with
In what way?
with the methods he uses? Because he is going back in time and kind of manipulating a lot of shit, including getting people to sleep with him multiple times, and it could be seen as kind of problematic. I can tell you the spoiler of where I sit on the fence. I think mostly no, but almost yes, because she is very into him the first time they meet, and I think that anchors it, so it kind of makes it okay. Like 500 Days of Summer, or not 500 Days of Summer, 50 First Dates, I think is like kind of rapey. Like it's always made me very uncomfortable, and this one kind of avoids that by having her be like, okay, I'm on board right away. And then he accidentally fucks it up and he's like trying to get back to that point. So I think that makes it mostly okay, but very much see any criticisms that come out of that because it's a very touchy thing. But I was curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I was kind of iffy about it the first time, but I've noticed it literally on this watch. She says, if you want, he's like, I'm going to go into my room and put on pajamas and change into pajamas. If you want, you can come and take them off. And so it's entirely her idea that they're having sex. And so I don't think it's problematic, especially in that occasion, which is the only sexual encounter, if I remember correctly.
He like redoes it, but
but he only goes back to the moment where it's after she invites him, And then same with when he repeats the day for the first time near the end of the movie, like she's the one that's suggesting, like, okay, let's have, like, even though they're already married, like it's still her idea.
Yeah.
And so, like, even though the character's underwritten, I don't think that they have such little agency that they are taken advantage of in the movie.
Yeah.
And they also make several jokes about him seeming like a creep at the Kate Moss exhibit. So I think him getting that. So I think that he pays a heavy price for that interaction, like by finding out that she has a boyfriend at the end. And so I think a heavy emotional price. And so I think it's fine. I don't see anything wrong with it at all.
Yeah. But also then the boyfriend thing is like kind of weird because he like goes back and just swoops in before he can because he knows that's what will work and what'll get her to be him. I don't know. It's still like borderline creepy to me. But I think it's mostly okay.
I feel it. Yeah. And I understand if folks at home disagree with me, like, this is art. We all take what we need and what we want from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. What are your favorite scenes?
Oh, well, I'll tell you. I like, it is like a voiceover scene, but when he's introducing his whole family, I think it's nice because it's one of the times that we get to see that shine. And it kind of culminates in that watching a movie in the rain, which has a very Wes Anderson-y type physical bit where they all open up the umbrella at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I loved. That was a fantastic scene. The sex scene was pretty great too when he's like not satisfied at his performance, so he like keeps coming back. The lifting up the shoes, like, these are dangerous, and moving them is pretty great. I think it may actually be one of my favorite scenes. I don't want to say favorite, but when he gets trapped in a mistake and he like can't time travel because she's like, no, you're not leaving right now.
Yeah.
Like that's fantastic. I was waiting for something to happen like that because really he faces no consequences the entire movie. Like he kind of just skates by the whole time. In the moment he faces consequences, but long term there's really nothing. Which is fine. It's a feel good movie. So it's nice to see him kind of like get caught in it. It was a very nice change of pace. I really liked the ping pong scene with Pops and the reveal that he's like, sometimes you just want to play ping pong with your kids more, and like that's why I do it. It was very sweet, very emotional, and the back in time when they just are hanging out on the beach as a kid, very nice. Yeah, I think those are all my favorites. Probably forgetting the Kate Moss exhibit was pretty great, as well. Yeah, we'll call it there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, like I had a few similar ones. I also liked the sex scene. I also liked the ping pong scene. I love the comparison between all the different best man speeches. I think that's another moment where the editing really excelled, and just the power of like what this art form can do with montage and like comparing one subject to another just with a simple cut. I think is really, really cool. I love also that the dad goes back to try again his speech. And I thought his second speech was just the sweetest thing, man, because that's when you realize, like, yeah, it's about a father passing on wisdom to his son, more than it is about the getting the girl and winning the day. And so I really love that about the movie. I really love that scene specifically. I also love the wedding sequence. most of the reception is shot like, I don't know, like 28 frames, because it's barely slow motion, but it's just slow enough that you're really getting a sense of like the rain and the impact of everything and the wind hitting everybody's clothes. It's just really, really fantastically directed and shot. I also I thought his first moment of time travel was really cute. Like that girl that he's super disappointed on New Year's Eve got a kiss, and she like her day was made, and I thought that was really nice and really wholesome.
Yeah. The original handshake was pretty great too.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. But yeah, that's about time. You can watch it on Netflix. It's been there for years, so you guys have no excuse. Please watch it. It's very, very good. And yeah, I'll watch anything Rachel McAdams is in, and Donald Gleason for that matter. But I especially like this one, and I think it's a fun, like, unique take on the genre as well. But yeah, that was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That was about time. Anything else you want to leave the people with, Jared?
No, I will say I wanted to interrupt with a bad joke, but it wasn't worth it earlier, so I'll say it now. When you were talking about yesterday, I was going to say that Donald Gleason was actually supposed to be in it. He was originally casted as Ed Sheeran, but they found a guy who was a little more similar, so they cut him out.
Yeah.
And it feels good to get that off my chest.
Feels good. Yeah, I'm glad. Catharsis. Such a great.
That's what this episode's about, baby.
Hell to the yeah. All right, audience. Follow us on all the socials. Keep up with us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and the works. We appreciate you. We love you. This is the way. Wakanda forever. Goodbye.